My guest today is Wanda Johnson. She is Supply Chain Technology Fellow with Deloitte. Hi, Wanda.
Hi, how you doing, Bob?
Good, thank you for joining me. We're going to talk today about Deloitte's annual industry report, Collaborative Supply Chain, Human-Centric Tech-Driven. Give me the history of that. When did that report start and what were you out to find out in launching such a thing?
So it's amazing. This is our 10th year with the report.
Really?
So we have been doing a report working with MHI for over the last 10 years. If we look at the last 3 years, how we actually, specifically, you start thinking about COVID to where we are now. Last year was on supply chain resiliency and sustainability, and this year we really tied back to all the things that we talked about over the last 10 years as how do we actually get the industry and the people that's within the supply chain business to understand, you know, the trends that's out there, how those trends are changing year by year, and looking at where we're going and what the future looks like for leaders.
So who did you survey? Tell me a little bit about the survey base.
The survey base is, we typically send out closer to over 2,000, but we get back about 1,000 to 15. It's CEOs, CIOs, leaders in the director in supply chain industry, technology, in that space, and that's who we actually send the surveys out. They answer those questions, come back, and then we collect all that data and use that data to actually develop the report.
Interesting, though, that a technology report should make a point of including human-centric in it. So I see you're keeping the human side of it in there.
Yeah, well, you know what, a lot of people fail to remember, no matter how you grow in the technology space, it's always going to be a human standing beside that. You cannot take that out. I think the main thing a lot of people, and that's why in our report, in every report, we always talk about change management.
The human aversion to change has to be overcome, especially with any technology adoption.
Yes.
Let's talk about the findings of this year's report. What would be like couple of key takeaways from this time around?
Well, two of the main two takeaways is a lot of the respondents came back and said it's going to be a price increase of what technologies they want to implement. So if you look at robotics, automation, Gen AI, that was the three main things that has been consistent across all of the reports. But this year, Gen AI actually came up at the top. And AI, you know, people say Gen AI, but AI came to the top. And then with AI coming to the top, a lot of the people wanted to know, it's not replacing. So in our report, we gave a good definition of what is Gen AI. How is that used to make better decisions? How is that making your human or your employee now what they were doing today? They're enhancing their capabilities and reskilling them to give you better predictive data, how you can actually have a better outlook. So that, plus we tied into that, how do the human actually, as I said, Gen AI, you can have a chat GPT, you can have all that, but still you got to have that person give that information, and the information has to be correct.
Yeah.
So we talked about that, the data part, data governance, data on the data that's collected by companies, and actually understanding that you have to have clean data to actually get the best results.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, over this 10 years, this report, what have you seen in this report as the transformation from descriptive AI or descriptive automation to predictive, and then finally prescriptive, in which the AI or the machine actually is making certain decisions? So some of that is happening, is it not? Or is there always a human being at the other end making the final decision?
It's always going to be a human being making those decisions.
Kind of comforting to know,
and let's think about AI. Let's talk about that just briefly. AI has been around for many years, and it's always been more programmed, whether it's programmable, it's actually static data and all that. But now with Gen AI, we're taking all that data and we're allowing, I'm gonna give you a good example. If you're a planner and you're trying to plan out your routes and all that, you always had that. You probably went through and did all that manually and you did that process. But now we have all that data of all those trucking routes, all of that. Now you could type in a question and say, is it better for me to optimize sending this to this ABC point, or should I do it that way? It could come back and give that end user a best ways of how to optimize their data. Yeah. Because you have all the history. But you've collected it all.
Yeah, but the Gen AI on kind of the general consumer level, you know the problems we see there.
Yes.
With the AI, quote unquote, hallucinating, coming out with
Yes.
saying things that just aren't true. How does that not happen in a more business-oriented environment or, you know, the supply chain environment? That's not a problem?
Well, I'm not saying it's not a problem because that it's so ironically you're talking about that. We just talked about that last night.
Uh-huh.
Even to the ethical part of AI.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies, if you think, so back to your question, yes, we have to consider that. And that's why a lot of times what we're trying to do is how do we cleanse that data and how do we make it so have security controls around it to make sure that what we do come out with, that's why you got to still have the human there.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to have that person to look at it and say, is this the right? Because if I'm Susie, and I've been doing this for how many years, and now I have this computer generating all this information, I'm asking the question, I still have that capability to do an analytical and analysis on that information that comes out to make sure that, is this solid, is this right? Because you could, you know, I know one guy was telling me that they did use Gen AI to help build out diversity at their company, who they should hire. But it came back with not the right data.
Is still a huge problem with AI.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you really have to think about this. Even though I have the data and I have the person, you know, typing in a chat bot or whatever, you still have to take the time to look at the data. And that comes back to, at the end of the report, we have the section on human interactions and what that means and why it's still important that people are not going to lose their jobs. It may be reskilling, or you may be, hey, you may be doing this specific job today, but you're doing something different because I'm enhancing your capabilities.
Yeah. What are we learning about change management? About how companies can do that in a way that it brings in technology in the right way, gets acceptance from the people who are on the job?
The biggest thing we're learning is you need to engage all your people at the beginning of the process. And that means when I decide that I want to implement any type of Gen AI, if I want to implement automation, robotics, anything like that, bring them along the journey. Do not wait and say, hey, we're ready to implement this, we're going to go live, and you're trying to get them to adopt. Adoption takes time. Specifically, if you look in the industry and if you look at distribution and warehousing, we have people that's been in those jobs, some of them more than 10 years. They've been doing that same job, either driving that forklift. Now you're saying, oh, we're not going to drive a forklift anymore. Yeah,
you can certainly understand their aversion at first. You know, it's in a natural kind of instinct, isn't it?
Yeah. And sometimes you get that resistance, but if you actually have communication, you have all of those journeys, and you take them along that journey with you. Get them involved in testing, get them involved in that whole process. It makes a big difference.
So the report is annual, is it not?
Yes, it's every year. We actually, this year, of course, it's at Modex. Then next year will be ProMat. So we do the report every year. It's annual report.
Well, I look forward to seeing where it goes from here on out. But thank you, Wanda, so much for helping us understand and giving us some insights into how the whole issue of technology and supply chain is being approached today based on this report. Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you very much. You have a good day.
You too.
Okay.
I was speaking with Wanda Johnson of Deloitte. Thank you very much for watching.